So welcome back. Here we are back again to run a quick summary. We just lined up the I/O junction box and ran two of the sheet metal screws in order to hold the I/O junction box in place while we work on it. The next step is we are going to use this 1 1/8 inch or 29 millimeter hole saw to cut the conduit hole. Now, depending on whether I mentioned it before in a previous video, we have to be very, very careful about drilling any kinds of holes in the shell of any type of these wine coolers. You have to be aware that there could be wires, there could be coolant lines, refrigerant lines, other things that you can damage and potentially do permanent damage to your cooler. So anytime you're drilling a hole in one of these things, there is a potential risk involved. Because I've built many of these and I have a good general idea on how they are constructed, I have an idea on where the wires run through the back of this particular project. And typically the wires run right about through here to this and then out the back. They also attach, you can't see them here in the video, but they are these wires that also powered the old controller. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the arbor, which comes with one of these hole saws, and we're going to remove the pilot drill. And the reason why we do this is because when I manufactured the I/O box, I made a hole which is almost precisely 1 1/8 inches, actually a little bit bigger, so that this hole saw, or that some variation in hole saws, will actually fit through it, but very tight. So instead of a pilot, we're actually going to use the back of the I/O box as a pilot to make this hole. This material, the back of this cooler, is very thin polystyrene plastic. And to be honest with you, if you wouldn't get bored, I could probably twist this by hand and get it through that back plastic. But we're not going to do that. We're going to go ahead and use the power tool. So here goes. Going to line this up. Gently apply some power. Do not go too fast. Do not put too much pressure on the drill, because I don't want you charging through. What I only want to do is essentially pierce the plastic back, remove that plastic, and then we're going to probe that space for wires, or we're going to probe it for items that we could potentially damage as a safety measure. Because this is plastic, remember, if you run this too hot, you'll melt the plastic instead of cutting the plastic. And cutting the plastic here is my goal. Now you can't see it, but I've already gone through about a semicircle portion of that plastic already. And reach the foam. Now I can tell you by looking at it, it appears to me that I have wires right underneath it. And it's probably this blue wire. Yeah, it does appear to me that I've nicked a wire. And that's no big deal. To be honest with you, I've never built one of these where I haven't nicked this wire. We do supply the wires, all the wires necessary to complete the kit, so we're not dependent on this particular wire. Go ahead and work at it a little bit more. Now I'm going to get myself a probe and I'm going to go ahead and pull out that piece of plastic. Okay, so there's the plastic. And if I was careful enough, I could have maybe saved the 2 wires that I went ahead and drilled through. But again, the important part of this is it doesn't really matter. I have a sense to try and preserve those if I can, but it seems to me that regardless of where I locate this box, I seem to find those wires, and there's not much I can do about it. So now that I'm completely through the plastic, and I've already got the wires, I'm just going to go ahead and feed this through the foam by hand. It is a little bit of a mess. And where did I set my probe? There it is. So that's that. We have essentially gone all the way through to the metal backside of the cooler. Now, one of the things that's really important for you to note is just, and again, there are no compressor lines that typically run through the insides of these projects where I'm at. They all run up back into the back here. But the last thing I want is for you to drill into one of these compressor lines and do damage to them. So I want to make sure that when you do this, you're really sure that there's nothing left down at the bottom of that hole. Back for a little more compressed air. Alright, so what I'm going to do is let me take the camera off the tripod. I'll give you a view of what it looks like from the inside so you know what I'm looking at. So here it is, and I brought you in to look at what I'm looking at through the inside of the I/O junction box, through the back of the wine cooler, through the foam insulation, and we're now looking at the metal physical backside of the wine cooler, some 1.5 inches away from the inside. Okay? Now, like I said, bear in mind, I'm just going to bring the camera around here real quick. Bear in mind that the compressor is right here, and the inside of that is right up in this area. So we're going to have to be extremely careful when we drill through that so that we do not strike the compressor and that we do not do damage to any other items on the back side of that wall. This is actually the most critical operation as far as building the cooler. Now, one of the things that you can also do, which I'm going to recommend that you do, I don't know whether we have enough light to see in there or not. I don't think so. But you're going to reach your hand through here and you're going to feel that there's nothing that's going to be in the way of that hole saw when you come through. But the compressor is down there. So forcing this through with an enormous amount of pressure is a really, really bad idea. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put the camera back up on the tripod, we're going to go ahead and drill through that. Okay, here we are back again, and hopefully I won't jar up the camera here too much while doing this. I've relocated the camera to get you a little better shot of what we're going to do here. Now, I'm going to try this again pilotless, or with no pilot. So let's see what happens. Drill is slipping there a little bit. Hopefully I haven't put my head in the way. As you can see, the metal here is relatively thin, so this is pretty easy to go through. I've already gone through the gist of it. That's it. So again, one of the things I wanted you to take note of, very little pressure on the drill. I let the drill do all of the work. And if the drill hangs up or catches on something, we go in, we inspect, we look to make sure that we're not through, we're not digging into the compressor, etc. Now again, there's my hand, there's what's left of the plate. We're just going to go ahead and pull that off. Let's pull it out here. As you can see, this is actually paper thin. This is a very, very, very thin piece of metal. So cutting through that with a saw is cake. That's really, really easy to do. Okay, so there, for all intents and purposes, we're about 80% complete with the I/O junction box. The next step will be to remove my guides here. Hopefully I can do, let's see if I can do that without moving the thing out of position. That's great, so that goes away. Go ahead and put in the additional screws or pilot those holes. This looks pretty darn straight to me, so I'm really happy with that. So let's go ahead, since I still got the other drill here. 1. Two. Fantastic. Now what we can do is remove the box. That's what we're going to do. We're going to glue up the back side of it. We're going to push it back down, and we're going to let it set up and dry, and everything will be good to go from there. Now we will have to go ahead, we'll get an awl or something to punch holes in these as we need to pull the wires out. Maybe I can get away with not using this one at all, use this one. Like I said, before we come back and glue this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach the lever wire nuts here to the top. That will make it handy and a lot easier for us to hook up some of our internal items. So let me go ahead and do that, and once I got that set up, we'll come back. We'll recontinue the course. Thanks again for watching.